Welcome to Value Plays Only, where Brain Freeze is just to punish top deck tutors. Today, we have John playing Zhulodok, Void Gorger. This is a big mana colorless random number generator. It looks to cast discounted high CMC cards to cascade into a win. It usually wins through a glaring Fleshraker loop. His hand contains Wandering Archaic, Cursed Totem, Kozilek's Command, Metalwork Colossus, Soul Ring, Guile Reach Sanitarium, and Darksteel Citadel. Cami is playing Winota, Joiner of Forces. This deck is packed to the brim with creatures. It looks to stacks out the board while cheating in massive combat threats. Her hand contains an Esper Sentinel, Drannith Magistrate, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, Goblin Rabblemaster, Angrath's Marauders, Mana Confluence, and Windswept Teeth. Dan is playing Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. This is a Rakdos Storm deck pretending to be a stacks deck. It's loaded up with 1 damage ping effects to generate massive card advantage through Ob. It can win with Agatha Soul Cauldron or Dualcaster Mage. His hand contains Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, Kessig Flamebreather, Rite of Flame, Faithless Looting, Beseech the Mirror, Gemstone Caverns, and Blightstep Pathway. Tyler is playing Marneus Calgar. This Esper value pile is chock-a-block full of token generators that Marneus turns into card advantage. It can win with Thassa's Oracle or Hullbreaker Horde loops. His hand contains Grim Hireling, Amphibian Downpour, Force Negation, Mox Amber, Watery Grave, Godless Shrine, and Morphic Pool. And with that, let's see some value plays. Dan has a pregame action, putting a Gemstone Caverns into play, exiling Faithless Looting. John then takes his turn. He plays a Darksteel Citadel as land for turn. He casts a Soul Ring. John passes the turn. Cami plays a Windswept Teeth for turn. She pays life and cracks it, fetching a Plateau. She then casts an Esper Sentinel. She follows it up with a Memnite. Cami then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Shadowblood Ridge as land for turn. He casts a Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. Dan passes the turn. Tyler plays a Morphic Pool for turn. He casts a Mox Amber. Esper Sentinel triggers and Tyler pays. The table appreciates the sign of respect and Tyler passes his turn. John untaps and draws. He plays Eye of Ugin as land for turn. He then passes the turn. Cami untaps and draws. She plays a Mana Confluence as land for turn. She takes 1 to cast Drannith Magistrate. It resolves and Cami passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He plays a Shivan Gorge as land for turn. He goes to combat and swings Ragavan at Tyler. Tyler protests Dan always blasting him, but Dan is sure of his plays. Tyler takes the damage and Ragavan triggers, making a treasure and exiling Smothering Tithe. Tyler sinks his head as the table cheers that Marneus has lost his best card. Dan passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Godless Shrine, into play tapped. Tyler passes the turn. In his end step, John casts Kozilek's Command with X equals 3, choosing to make Eldrazi spawn and exile Drannith Magistrate. Esper triggers and Cami draws. Command resolves and the turn moves to John. John untaps and draws. He plays a Guile Reach Sanitarium as land for turn. He taps out to cast his commander, Zhulodok, Void Gorger. John then passes the turn. Cami untaps and draws. She plays an Exotic Orchard as land for turn. Cami casts Enlightened Tutor. She searches up a Soul Ring to the top of her library. Cami then casts a Grand Abolisher. The table get an uneasy look as Abolisher resolves. Cami then passes the turn. Dan untaps and goes to combat. He swings Ragavan at Tyler. Tyler takes his obligatory Dan damage and Ragavan triggers, making a treasure and exiling Grand Abolisher. In his second main phase, Dan casts Rite of Flame. Esper triggers and Cami draws. He adds 2 red mana and then casts his commander, Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. Dan then decides he may as well and casts Grand Abolisher from exile. With the second Bad Abolisher sequencing turn back-to-back in the books, Dan passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Watery Grave, into play untapped, paying 2 life. Tyler takes no other actions and passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays a Planar Nexus as land for turn. John casts Mana Vault. Esper triggers and Cami draws. John then casts Memory Jar. It resolves and John sacrifices 2 Eldrazi spawn to cast Metalwork Colossus, discounted by 7. It triggers twice to Cascade. The first Cascade resolves and John finds a Lightning Greaves, casting it. The second Cascade resolves and John finds a Thran Dynamo, casting it. John moves to equip Lightning Greaves to Metalwork Colossus. Tyler asks if John plans to blast him with the Colossus. John says if Tyler's going to try and out his board, he'll definitely blast him. Tyler casts Amphibian Downpour with Storm count 5. Tyler frogs Zhulodok, Metalwork Colossus, Grand Abolisher 1, Grand Abolisher 2, Nixilis, and Ragavan. Lightning Greaves then equips to the Big Frog. John asks if Dan is willing to trade off their creatures so they can both recast their commanders. Dan agrees and John goes to combat, swinging Colossus Frog and Zhulodok Frog at Dan. Dan blocks with his Frog and his Abolisher Frog, and then all the frogs die and John passes the turn. Cami untaps and draws. She casts a Soul Ring. Tyler responds with a Force of Negation, exiling Windfall as an additional cost, in a desperate bid to keep Winota from pulling ahead. Esper triggers and Cami draws. Soul Ring is countered and exiled, and Cami curses Tyler's name. She then casts a Dauntless Dismantler. Cami passes the turn. Dan untaps the shambles of his board and draws. He casts a Kessig Flamebreather. It resolves and Dan passes the turn. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Mana Confluence as land for turn. He taps out to cast Grim Hireling. It resolves and Tyler passes the turn. John untaps and draws. In his draw step, he takes 1 from his mana vault. John recasts his commander, Zhulodok, Voidgorger. It resolves, and John equips Lightning Greaves to Zhulodok. He goes to combat, swinging Zhulodok at Cammy. She takes 7 commander damage. In his second main phase, John sacrifices his last Eldrazi spawn to cast Wandering Archaic. John then activates Metalwork Colossus engraved, sacrificing Mana Vault and Darksteel Citadel to return it to hand. He then casts Metalwork Colossus for free. It has 2 Cascade triggers. The first Cascade resolves, and John finds Disruptor Flute, casting it. Esper triggers, and Cammy draws. Flute resolves and enters, naming Winota, join our forces. The second Cascade resolves, and John finds Bygone Colossus, casting it. Totally out of options, John passes the turn. Cammy untaps and draws. She casts Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. It resolves, and Cammy passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He takes no game actions and passes. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays a Scrubland as land for turn. Tyler asks Dan if he will let him in to make some treasures. Dan says no way, as Tyler gestures wildly to John's board. He goes to combat anyway, swinging Grim Hireling at Dan. Dan blocks with his Frog. In his second main phase, Tyler taps out to cast his commander, Marneus Calgar. Tyler then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He plays the Mycosynth Gardens as land for turn. John goes to combat, swinging 11 at Dan and 19 at Tyler. They both take the damage, as they struggle to grapple with the vanilla robot beasts that seem to be winning the game. In his second main phase, John casts Camille, the Inner Sun. Esper triggers, and Cammy draws. Camille resolves, and John then moves to his end step. Camille triggers, and John discovers Inspiring Sanctuary, casting it. John then passes the turn. Cammy untaps and plays Gemstone Caverns as land for turn. She casts a Goblin Rabblemaster. Cammy goes to combat, and Rabblemaster triggers to make a 1/1 Goblin. Cammy swings her Goblin at John, and he takes the damage. Cammy then passes the turn. Dan untaps and draws. He looks around at the sad state of his board and passes the turn yet again. Tyler untaps and draws. He goes to combat, swinging Marneus at John and Hireling at Dan. John takes first strike damage, and Hireling triggers to make 2 treasures. Marneus triggers to draw. John and Dan take regular damage, and Hireling triggers twice to make more treasures. Marneus triggers twice to draw. In his second main phase, Tyler plays a Bloodstained Mire as land for turn. He casts a Ranger Captain of Eos. It enters, and he searches up an Ocelot Pride to hand. He casts Ocelot Pride, hoping to start generating some value. Tyler also decides he's too low to do nothing and activates Grim Hireling, sacrificing 4 treasures to give Wandering Archaic -4/-4 until end of turn, killing it. Tyler then passes the turn. John untaps and draws. He goes to combat, swinging everything at Tyler. Tyler blocks the Colossus brothers with his creatures. Before damage, Tyler sacrifices Ranger Captain of Eos to lock John out of non-creature spells this turn. In his second main phase, John plays a Scorch Ruins, sacrificing 2 lands as it enters. In his end step, Camille triggers to discover a Metalworker, which John can cast. It resolves, and John passes the turn. Cammy untaps and draws. She casts an Ajani, Nacatl Pariah. It enters and makes a 2/1 cat. Cammy goes to combat. Rabblemaster triggers to make a Goblin. Cammy swings all her Goblins at John. Rabblemaster triggers to get +2/+0. John takes the damage. Finished up, Cammy passes the turn. Dan untaps nothing yet again. He regrets much of this game and passes yet again. At the end of Dan's turn, Tyler casts Mystical Tutor. Esper triggers, and Cammy draws. He puts a Born Upon the Wind on top of his library, and the turn moves to Tyler. Tyler untaps and draws. He plays Arid Mesa as land for turn. Tyler goes to combat and swings Hireling at Dan and Marneus at John. Dan decides he needs to keep Tyler from jamming here and casts Lightning Bolt, targeting Grim Hireling. Kessig and Esper trigger. Dan pays for Esper, and then each opponent takes 1. Tyler responds with a Silence. Esper triggers, and Cammy draws. Cammy responds with a Silence of her own. Tyler eyes his dwindling window and casts Born Upon a Wind. It resolves, and Tyler draws a card. He then casts Demonic Tutor. It resolves, and he goes searching. Tyler's really limited on mana thanks to the Thalia and Dauntless. He gets a Flusterstorm. Tyler pays a life and cracks his Arid Mesa, fetching up a Tundra. He casts Flusterstorm, with copies split between Lightning Bolt and Cammy's Silence. The spells are countered, and Tyler's Silence resolves, locking his opponents out this turn. We finally move to the combat damage step. John takes first strike damage, and Hireling triggers to make 2 treasures. Marneus triggers to draw. John and Dan take regular damage, and Hireling triggers twice to make more treasures. Marneus triggers twice to draw. With no more untapped mana, Tyler has to pass the turn. John untaps and draws, happy to see the 2 Silences and Born pulled out on Tyler's turn. He goes to combat, swinging Zhulodok at Tyler and the Colossus brothers at Dan. Dan blocks 10 with Firebreather and takes 9. Tyler dies. In his second main phase, John improvises to help cast Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. It cascades twice and has a cast trigger to exile Dauntless Dismantler and Thalia. Cammy's cards are exiled, and John gets more optimistic about his chances. His first cascade then resolves, finding a Nexus of Becoming, casting it. Esper triggers, and Cammy draws. The second cascade resolves, finding Staff of Completion, casting it. Ulamog then resolves. John activates Staff of Completion, paying a life to destroy Metalwork Colossus. John sacrifices 2 artifacts to return Metalwork Colossus to hand. He casts it for free, and it triggers to cascade twice. The first cascade resolves, and John finds Tezzeret, Cruel Captain, casting it. The second cascade resolves, and John finds Basalt Monolith, casting it. Tezzeret triggers to get a loyalty. John activates Tezzeret's 0 loyal ability to untap Staff of Completion. He pays a life to activate Staff, destroying Metalwork Colossus. He sacrifices 2 artifacts to return to his hand. He then casts Metalwork Colossus for free, and it triggers twice to Cascade. The first Cascade resolves, and John finds Honor-Worn Shaku, casting it. John ignores his Tezzeret triggers for the rest of this turn. The second Cascade resolves, and John finds Chromatic Orrery, casting it. John activates Memory Jar. Each player exiles their hand and draws 7. He then casts Forsaken Monument. At this point, John has Forsaken Monument and Basalt Monolith, which means he can tap Assault for 4 mana and pay 3 to untap it, generating infinite colorless mana. John doesn't realize this in the moment, but we'll come back to this interaction after some more wheel spinning. John casts Ugin, the Spirit Dragon. Ugin cascades twice into Torpor Orb and then Glaring Fleshraker. With one of the combo pieces he's looking for, John's feeling better and better about his chances. John activates Staff of Completion 3 times over, tapping it and paying 3 life to proliferate between each activation, giving Ugin 3 more loyalty. John activates Ugin's ultimate ability, drawing 7 cards and putting 7 permanents into play. Glaring Fleshraker should be triggering many times here, but John's trying to blaze through and find a way to the infinite mana he should already have. One of the cards entering here is Rings of Brighthearth. John now sees a different infinite mana line. By tapping Basalt for what he thinks is 3, and paying 3 to untap it, he can pay an additional 2 mana with Rings to copy the untap ability. This would make 6 mana and cost 5, generating infinite mana. Of course, he didn't need to do this, but life moves on. John equips his Kuldotha Forge Master that he put in with Ugin with Lightning Greaves. He activates the ability of Forge Master, sacrificing 3 artifacts to search up Spine of Ishsaw. With his infinite mana, John can now present a deterministic loop. He casts Spine of Ishsaw. Glaring Fleshraker triggers to make a spawn. It triggers again to ping each opponent for 1. Spine resolves and enters, triggering to destroy itself. Spine triggers in the grave to return itself to hand. John can cast Spine of Ishsaw over and over, destroying it and returning it to his hand each time. Each time he does, Glaring Fleshraker will ping each opponent for 1. He does this over and over until all of his opponents are dead, and with that, John finally wins the game. So, what do we learn here today? If you're going to play a convoluted, non-deterministic combo pile, maybe learn the lines before you start jamming. If you have any tips for the video, leave them below. Subscribe if you feel like it. Until next time, keep making value plays.
It's always me.
Do not act like your card quality is lower than mine.
I'm just saying, if you go back to any video where Dan has an option between any opponent and me, it's me.
I'm going to swing my boys and you just block with your boys?
Yeah, you can just swing them. Then...
Alright, I'm going to swing both my boys at you.
Okay. We didn't make a deal, right?
Dan, I swear to fucking God.
You just said, I'm just going to swing my boys and you can block.
I said, okay, I'm going to attack you and we're going to trade our guys. You said, yeah, that's good. And I said, okay, I'll swing at you.
Okay.
And then you said, that's not a deal, right?
That's fine. No, that's fine. I think I misunderstood. John, I didn't mean to scare you like that either.
I mean, Dan, that's the craziest shit. 19 at you, 11 at you.
Okay.
Take 19.
I'll take 11.
All right. Now we're making progress. Go to combat.
Mm-hmm.
Swing 100 at you.
I'll put a Born Pollen, I guess, on top.
I'm going to pay for Thalia and I'm going to pay for Esper.
Wow. What?
Boo, I'm helping you.
And I'm going to bolt Grim.
Better be more than that for Thalia.
This is real bad, yeah. Oh, it is definitely.
Nothing's won.
You're right. Here's a Born Pollen.
You paid 3?
Yep.
Pass on D2. You want to put your Born away,
Did you pay Thalia?
Yeah, Thalia's cooking me.
Hey,
John, you want to crack that memory jar there, brother?
I was only going to do it if you consulted your library away. I think I win by mine.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll swing Zhulodok at you and 19 at Dan.
This guy, he knows a threat when he sees it.
Take a 9. And then I will cast him, Cascade. I have 2 Cascade triggers on guy.
John, you're going to have a stack like this.
When this enters, I will...
Dude, you're going to have to edit this.
I know. Kimmy, I'm mad. We're all mad. I will tap 2. There's got to be a faster way to do this. Finally. I can demonstrate a loop.
Do you still have those boots out
Shut
there
up.
somewhere?
Yes. Lightning Greaves on Forge Master. Tap and sack 3 artifacts. Let me look in my heap.
Yeah.
All right. Guys,
this guy's playing really slow.
I'm genuinely trying.
Card that was
Say slow play and what is this?
I'm genuinely trying so hard.
I need a cleaner board state. I can't tell what's going on.
That's your first warning.
I can cast Spine of Ishsaw for some, right? It triggers Guy.
Some?
For some. It triggers Guy to make a spawn. The spawn will ping you guys for 1.
Honestly, I think you just won because we all gave up.